I sit on my porch tonight, the creak of my old rocking chair keeping time with the crickets. The air smells of pine and damp earth, the kind of scent that lingers after a Carolina rain. At 67, I've learned that life has a way of piling up memories like ash in a hearth, some warm, some cold, all heavy. I'm Amos Reed, and I've got a story to tell you, one I've carried for decades, locked away like a letter never sent. It's about betrayal, about love twisted into something sharp, and about the kind of revenge that doesn't heal but buries you deeper. So, pull up a chair and listen to an old man's tale of a family broken and a reckoning long overdue. It was a September evening, not unlike this one, when I found the package on my doorstep. I'd been a widower for 3 years by then, living alone in this old clapboard house outside Asheville. My wife, Clara, had been the heart of this place, her laughter filling the rooms where now only silence lives. Our son, Jacob, was supposed to be the one to carry her light forward. Instead, he became the shadow that darkened my days. The package was plain, a cardboard box no bigger than a bread loaf with my name scrawled in black marker. No return address, just a smudged postmark from somewhere in Charlotte. I brought it inside, set it on the kitchen table, and stared at it under the fluorescent light. Something about it felt wrong, like a note played out of tune. I should have known better than to open it, but at my age, curiosity still gets the better of me sometimes. Inside was a metal tin, the kind you'd store cookies in. I pried it open and the smell hit me first, rancid, like sour milk left too long in the sun. Nestled in tissue paper was a pile of ashes, grey and fine, with bits of bone glinting like broken promises. A note was taped to the lid, typed in cold, mechanical font, "You kept what was mine. Now I keep what was yours." My hands shook as I read it again. The words didn't make sense, not at first. But then I saw the tiny silver locket mixed in with the ashes. Clara's locket, the one she'd worn every day since I gave it to her on our 10th anniversary. It held a curl of our daughter's hair, our little Hannah, who died at 5 from leukemia. Clara never took it off, not even when she passed. Jacob had stolen it from her body at the funeral home, claiming it was his to remember her by. I hadn't seen it in 4 years. I sank into a chair, the tin staring back at me. The ashes weren't just ashes, they were Clara's. My son had desecrated his mother's remains, burned what was left of her, and sent them to me as some kind of twisted message. My heart pounded, not with anger yet, but with a grief so deep it felt like drowning. I was 67 years old, and my only living child had just turned my love for his mother into a weapon. Let me take you back, so you understand how we got here. Jacob was never an easy boy. Even as a child, he had a hunger in him, not for food or toys, but for more attention, more control, more of everything. Clara saw the good in him, always. "He's just spirited, Amos," she'd say, her eyes soft as she tucked him in at night. I worked long hours at the lumber mill, 12-hour shifts that left my hands calloused and my back bent. Every dollar went to giving Jacob the life I never had: school trips, new clothes, a used car when he turned 16. I missed dinners, ball games, even Clara's birthday once, all so he could have what I thought he needed. By the time he was 20, Jacob was charming, quick with a smile, but there was a hardness in him, like a river rock smoothed over but unyielding. He married a woman named Leela, sharp-tongued and ambitious, who saw my savings as her ticket to a better life. They'd come to the house, all smiles, asking for loans to cover rent, car repairs, Leela's boutique that never turned a profit. I gave because that's what fathers do. Clara warned me, her voice quiet one night as we lay in bed. "Amos, he's taking pieces of you. One day, there won't be anything left." She was right. By the time Clara got sick, breast cancer, stage 4, no mercy, Jacob was bleeding us dry. I sold my father's pocket watch, a family heirloom, to pay for Clara's treatments. Jacob promised to help, said he'd get a second job. Instead, he and Leela took a trip to Vegas, charging it to my credit card. "We needed a break, Dad," he said when I confronted him. His eyes didn't meet mine. "Clara died on a Tuesday," her hand cold in mine. "Jacob didn't come to the hospital until it was over." He stood in the doorway, his face blank, and said, "She's better off now." Then he took her locket, slipping it from her neck before I could stop him. I should have fought him then, but grief makes you weak. I let him walk away with the last piece of her I had left. After the funeral, Jacob's demands grew bolder. He wanted the house, said it was his inheritance. I was only 63 then, still kicking, still planning to live in the home Clara and I built. "You're old, Dad," he'd say, leaning back in my recliner like he owned it. "Why not sign it over now? Leela and I could fix it up, Make it ours. Leela would nod, her eyes calculating, her manicured nails tapping on her phone. I refused. The house was Clara's dream, with its wraparound porch and the garden she tended until her hands were too weak. Giving it to Jacob felt like giving away her memory. That's when the threats started. You'll regret this, Dad, he'd say, his voice low, like a dog growling before it bites. Family takes care of family. Leela was worse, her words sharp as broken glass. You're selfish, Amos. Hoarding what's rightfully ours while we struggle. Struggle. Their struggle was a new SUV, designer clothes, and weekends at casinos. My struggle was paying off medical bills, keeping the lights on, and waking up every morning to a bed half empty. I stopped giving them money after Clara's death, not out of cruelty, but because I had nothing left to give. My savings were gone, eaten up by hospital stays and Jacob's endless emergencies. I told him to stand on his own 2 feet. He laughed, a sound that chilled me. You'll see, old man. You'll wish you'd been more generous. The tin of ashes sat on my table for 3 days before I could touch it again. I didn't call the police. What would I say? My son sent me his mother's remains to punish me. It sounded like madness, even to me. Instead, I drove to the old oak tree by the river where Clara and I used to picnic when we were young. I scattered the ashes there, whispering apologies to her for what our son had done. The locket I kept, tucking it into my pocket like a wound I couldn't stop pressing. Jacob's betrayal wasn't just the ashes. It was the years of lies, the stolen moments, the way he turned Clara's memory into a weapon. I remembered the nights I'd lie awake wondering where I went wrong. Was it the missed baseball games, the times I was too tired to talk? Or was Jacob always this way, a seed planted wrong, growing crooked no matter how much you watered it? I decided then that he'd taken enough. I wasn't going to let him take my peace, too. But revenge, when you're my age, isn't about fists or shouting matches. It's about cutting the strings that tie you to someone else's chaos. I called my lawyer, Margaret Boone, a woman with steel in her eyes and a heart that understood loss. I want to protect what's left of my life, I told her, and I want Jacob to feel the weight of what he's done. Margaret's office smelled of polished wood and old books. She listened as I told her everything, the ashes, the locket, the years of manipulation. Her pen scratched across her notepad, each word a brick in the wall I was building. Amos, she said, her voice steady, we can make sure Jacob has no claim to anything you own. But you need to be certain. This will change things forever. I'm certain, I said. My voice didn't waver. For the first time in years, I felt like the man Clara married, resolute, unbroken. We rewrote my will. The house, the little money I had left, everything went into a trust for my grandchildren, Emma and Caleb. Jacob and Leela would never touch it. The trust would pay for their education, their future, things Jacob never valued. Margaret added a restraining order, citing the ashes as evidence of harassment. This isn't just a prank, Amos, she said. It's cruelty. The courts will see it that way. I didn't stop there. Jacob had used my credit card for years, racking up charges I'd paid without question. I cancelled his access, changed every PIN, and froze the accounts he knew about. I sold the old truck he'd been eyeing, using the money to install security cameras around the house. If he came back, I'd have proof. I wasn't afraid anymore, just tired, and ready to be done. A week later, Jacob called. I let it ring, watching his name flash on the screen like a ghost I no longer owed anything to. When he showed up at the house, banging on the door, I stayed calm. Dad, open up, he shouted. You can't do this to me. That house is mine. I stood behind the locked door, the locket heavy in my pocket. It's not yours, Jacob, I said through the wood. It never was. Go home. He pounded harder, his voice breaking into something desperate. You think you can cut me out? After everything I've done for you. Everything you've done. I laughed, and it sounded like someone else's voice, hard and bitter. You sent me your mother's ashes, Jacob. You stole her locket. You've taken enough. Leela's voice joined his, shrill and venomous. You're a selfish old man, Amos. You'll die alone and we'll get everything anyway. I opened the door just enough to meet their eyes. You'll get nothing, I said. The will's changed. The house is protected, and the police have your restraining order. Step foot here again and you'll be arrested. Jacob's face twisted, caught between rage and disbelief. Leela grabbed his arm, pulling him back. This isn't over, she hissed. But they left, their car spitting gravel as they sped away. That was 6 months ago. The house is quiet now, the kind of quiet that settles into your bones. I walk to the river sometimes, sit under that oak tree, and talk to Clara. I tell her I'm sorry for what Jacob became for not seeing it sooner. I keep her locket on my nightstand, a reminder of the love we had and the son we lost. I don't know where Jacob is now. Margaret says he tried to contest the will, but the courts upheld it. The restraining order keeps him away, though I see his car sometimes idling at the end of the street. He doesn't come closer. Maybe he's learning what consequences feel like. Emma and Caleb send me drawings sometimes through their school's address. I send them books, puzzles, things to make them smile. I hope one day they'll understand why I had to draw this line, why their father's choices couldn't be mine to fix anymore. As for me, I'm finding peace in the small things: morning coffee, the smell of rain, the creak of this old porch. I've lived long enough to know that revenge doesn't fix what's broken. Cutting Jacob out wasn't about hurting him, it was about saving myself. I spent 30 years trying to be the father he wanted, the one who gave and gave until there was nothing left. Now, I'm the father I need to be, one who says no, who protects what matters, who carries the weight of ashes but doesn't let them bury him. If this story touched you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more tales from an old man's heart. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done? How do you carry on when family turns to strangers? I read every word you write. Until next time, keep your porch light on and your heart open, but guarded.